Hello and welcome to the final installment of BCSC in Action for the 2016-2017 school year. In this show, you will get to meet one of our unsung heroes and hear an update on the pre-K as well as some other information from Dr. Roberts. In our first segment, we meet a man who has made quite an impression on many BCSC students over the years. However, many parents may have never heard of him. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Kinsey Rooks, and today I'm in the studio with Mr. Terry, who we all know as a beloved sub. Hi, Mr. Terry. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Good. So we just have a couple questions to ask you. Is that okay?
Okay, sure.
So when did you start subbing?
11 years ago. I retired as a salesman 11 years ago. And I was a salesman for 50 years. So I quit selling, and I needed a job. So I started out at Cracker Barrel, working evenings. And somebody says, well, why don't you, I wanted to work, I didn't want to sit around. So somebody said, why don't you, a friend of mine suggested substitute teaching. And I couldn't believe that would be a good idea, except he said you have to have a 2-year degree, and I have that. So he said, well, they're looking for subs. So I called in, and to my surprise, I was hired, and then I'll make this real short. And then I was working all day at subbing, and evenings 4 to 9 at Cracker Barrel, and I was a host there, and I didn't like hosting, dealing with waitresses and making sure they were busy. And then I was subbing. I didn't know who would fire me first, the Cracker Barrel or the school. Well, the school wanted me to sub more for them, so I quit working at the Cracker Barrel and worked all day at substituting.
And you had also been in the military or the armed forces, hadn't you?
Yes. During the Korean War, I didn't serve. I was not in the actual Korea. I was over on a destroyer in the Mediterranean, training for 2 years on a destroyer. Yes.
And you went to D.C., didn't you go to Washington, D.C. to visit the monument?
Yes, I was on the, 2 years ago, they took 200 men from Indiana, free trip to D.C. and spent a whole day, and they flew us back. And it was quite an experience.
Yeah, that is really cool. Why did you think substitute teaching was right for you?
Frankly, I didn't, but I thought I'd try it. And my first day was at Taylorsville Elementary, and a fellow by the name of anyway, I'll think of his name. But anyway, I could tell I didn't know what to do, and he knew what to do. So he said, "Mr. Terry, I'll conduct the class for you," and he didn't. And he conducted it for me. And he said, "This girl's misbehaving. Should we change her card from pink to red or something?" And I said, and I didn't want to do that on my first day. And so anyway, that was my first day. And then my second day in the job, I was a math teacher at North for Mrs. Lax. And I was so nervous I was shaking because I thought, here I am, I didn't do too well in math as a student, let alone be teaching it. And so I was shaking so much that the boy says, well, I'll write the assignment on the board then for me. But that was quite an experience. I'll never forget. Okay.
Yeah. What has been your most rewarding experience as a sub?
2 years ago, this is C4 class, Mr. Hack. And Mr. I forgot his name. He was the C4 director here. And I got a letter from East to get an award as a substitute teacher. I mean, for being a substitute teacher for C4 classes at North. And so I got an award from him, and a real nice plaque that I have in my office. So that was quite an experience.
Yeah, that is really cool. What advice would you have for people in the community who might be considering becoming a substitute teacher?
It's a fantastic privilege. really is. You deal with very dedicated teachers, great kids, and it's quite an experience.
Mm-hmm. And then, as most of you can see, sitting in between Mr. Terry and I is his briefcase, and he kind of told me earlier, but do you kind of want to tell them what the briefcase means to you and how you kind of use it with the students?
Well, you know, as a sub, you walk into the classroom, and sometimes you can't find all the things you need. And for example, I have erasers in here to put on wooden pencils for the kids. And then sometimes when you do your report on the whiteboard, maybe I can't find a red pen or a green pen to write on the board. So I made this. This holds up but I made that. Mm-hmm. And this briefcase used to be for just books and papers that my son got as an award from the Navy. But my hobby is carpentry, so I converted to all these inserts here to hold all the things. Mm-hmm. I got paper clips in there and Scotch tape and glue and everything we need.
That you need?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you ever a substitute teacher for your son's class?
No.
Never?
No.
You never got to substitute for your kids?
No.
And then last but not least, do you have a message that you want to give out to your former students or the community that commented on your Facebook picture that was such a hit?
Well, thank you. Boy, it was overwhelming. Yeah.
Well, that's a big thank you from all of us in the community, and thank you from me, Mr. Terry, as I know I've had you multiple times as his substitute teacher, and we just want to wish you the best of luck in the rest of your career.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you for being here with us today.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
How would you like the best part-time job that includes full-time benefits? Then sign on to be a school bus driver for Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation. Your time commitment is only around 4 hours daily. If hired, you'll receive convenient training, ongoing assistance, and benefits, including a 403(b) retirement plan, life insurance, paid time off, and competitive pay. To apply, visit bcsc.k12.in.us and choose employment.
Finally, Dr. Roberts is here in the studio and will give his impression of his first year as a BCSC superintendent and other insights from his first year in Columbus.
Hi, I'm Graham Johnson, and I'm here with Dr. Roberts for his last session of BCSC in action. So, Dr. Roberts, to what extent have your views changed about BCSC as a whole since becoming the superintendent?
Graham, my views have changed only for the better. It's been an exciting year for me to take over as superintendent of the Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation. I really thought I knew a lot about the school system coming in, but everything I knew has turned out to be true, but then I've learned a lot more that is so positive about this system. We have wonderful kids, we have tremendous staff members, the community is extremely supportive. We have great leaders in this community. They're willing to help us out in so many ways. We have necessary resources to get the things we need to do for each and every child. Our facilities are in great shape, although we have things to do for each of them. We have a lot of buildings, 21 in all. We're doing some things there, but great buildings. So in short, I'm just very impressed, and even more so impressed with this school system than when I accepted the job back about a year ago.
That's good. So what do you see happening in the future for BCSC?
Well, as I dig into the school system, and as just stated, I'm very impressed with already what's going on, but there are always opportunities to do more. And so we are engaged right now in a continuous improvement process where we are trying to determine what those opportunities might be and how we can stretch things and ensure that our students have that they want to come to school here because we are providing them choices that are different than other places. So a very specific example of that, a project that we are currently working on is something called a dual language immersion program, and we obviously offer a lot of language opportunities already in the school system. But we are looking to add Spanish, the Spanish language, to our curriculum in the pre-K kindergarten grades. And we would, in a dual language immersion situation, we would identify a building, one of our elementary schools, to start that program, identify a certain number of students to get that program off the ground, and then each year add a grade until eventually that dual language immersion program, which is the day is spent primarily speaking Spanish and learning at a language where we are more apt to learn versus maybe when we're learning a language in high school. But we would add a grade until we're all the way through our pre-K to 6th grade building, and then that would tie in with the things that are already happening in our middle schools and high schools. So our desire would be to have students begin taking it in pre-K or kindergarten and then become fully proficient, bilingual in the Spanish language by the time they get to high school. So we're really excited about the potential of that program and look to perhaps begin that in the 2018-19 school year. But that's just one specific example of something we're looking to accomplish to expand the opportunities that we have available for our students.
That's very exciting. Are you planning to sit in on any senior project presentations coming up in May?
I am. I've already had the opportunity to sit in on some senior project presentations back at McDowell at the end of first semester, and I'm scheduled for at least one of the 2 days. I think there are 2 days of presentations happening at our schools here at the end of May, and I'm scheduled for one of those days. So I'm looking forward to that. I think very highly of the senior projects and what they can do for our community.
Are there any senior projects that you've found particularly interesting or helpful to the community?
I do, and first of all, I think the senior projects are a great thing because they add an additional level of accountability to you all. I think you're a senior, Graham, getting ready to graduate, so there's this extra level of accountability to graduate, but then the service hours it provides to our community is very important, and through that, and I'm still learning about all of the projects that we've done, but a couple of things that I've found out were related to senior projects. The dance marathon that's done for Turning Point, it's been going on for a number of years, highly successful, hundreds of thousands of dollars have been raised through that venture, and it started out as a senior project, so that's really cool. And then I believe the pedestrian crossings with the nice flashing lights that we have that are very visible, that are in place in front of both Columbus East and Columbus North, were a part of a senior project. So that's a safety piece that was very important. And then this year, I've had the opportunity to already be made aware of a project coming from Columbus North. Jennifer Gutman, a student there, presented to our school board at a recent regular school board meeting, and she has an app called Pulse Point, and she is working to make sure that all of the AEDs in all of our school buildings, as well as AEDs throughout our community, are in this app. So if I run into a situation where I need to know where an AED is, I can quickly hit that app. It will locate me and the nearest AED to go get, and then it also gives me instructions as to how to do or use the AED and some basic first aid. So a really neat app that Jennifer is working on and making sure that the information, at least from the Columbus area, has been entered into that. And as a school corporation, we are helping her with that and making sure we are providing the right information to locate the AEDs in our school buildings just in case that happens. We have about 14,000 people per day that report to one of our buildings somewhere, and then you add the evening activities to that with the sports that are going on and the community coming on and off of our property. Knowing where AEDs are might be a really important thing one of these times.
Yeah. What would you say your biggest challenge has been as superintendent?
Well, I think the challenge that I was aware would be immediate for me was just getting used to a different system. And not only a different system, but a larger system than what I was formerly superintendent of. Batesville is a school corporation of about 2,200 students and 250 employees. Here we are about 11,600 students when we include our pre-kindergarten students, and almost 2,000 employees. So We're getting close to 6 times more when we're talking about students and staff, and that also equates to money and buildings. We're about 6 times more when it comes to working through those things. So that's a challenge, just figuring that out. Takes some time to work through, understanding the organizational structure and the resources that I have available to me and who I can delegate some things to sometimes. So that was a challenge I was aware of that would be the case, and have jumped into that and I think figured that out. Another challenge is just being new to, or back in this community. I believe my position is one that has to be very engaged and involved in the community. Our school corporation, if our school corporation is really good, our community is really good and will benefit, and vice versa. If our community is really good, our school corporation also will be very good. So it's important for me to be involved, but with that it's resulted in a lot of time, a lot of evening meetings with people throughout the community, just trying to get to know them to get to know me, and to figure out how we can help each other. So that's been a little bit of a challenge, but I think we've worked through that too. And then the last piece I would add every single year is going to bring issues. And sometimes those issues involve really tough weather seasons during the winter, and we didn't have that. So we can put that aside. It was great for me to come in as a new superintendent and not have to deal with a lot of weather issues. But some challenges we had that we maybe didn't anticipate when we changed some wording in our non-discrimination policy and added gender identity to that policy. The board had already approved that, but when I came in July, my first board meeting, we had, it seemed like about 100 people. I don't know what the count was, but a lot of people at the board meeting to express their concerns with that change in policy. So we had to work through that over the first couple of months that I was here. And then that led in, because that's kind of a diversity thing, and then staying on the diversity theme, the presidential campaign was a very interesting one this year. And a lot of raw emotions were exposed during the campaign, the election, and we had to work through some pieces with that, and as did the community. And so those are some challenges that came up that I didn't necessarily anticipate coming in, but I think that we as a corporation and as a community have worked through them, and no pun intended since I've already referenced weather, but I think we've weathered the storm in those situations and can continue to work, get better, get stronger, and move on. But those are a few challenges that I feel like I've had to face during this first year as superintendent.
Mm-hmm. So overall, how do you feel like your first year as superintendent went?
Or the people who are paying attention to this show might feel differently and might tell me that at some point in time, but I feel that it's went very well. I felt very comfortable here. I've been made to feel comfortable by everybody, whether that's the people within the schools, kids, staff, or within the community, and it has seemed to be a good fit for me. I was familiar with the Columbus area, and that familiarity, I think, helped me coming in, and I do believe it's been a great year, and I look forward to many more really neat things to come as we continue to work through our continuous improvement process and develop more opportunities for the school corporation, because it is my vision to ensure that our school corporation is the one of choice for kids anywhere. If you are trying to decide where should I go to school, I don't think you should have any other decision to make except Bartholomew Consolidated Schools, and I want us to be recognized as the best, and I will work diligently, tirelessly to make sure that's the case. And so, great first year, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. What has been the best part of being the superintendent of BCSC?
Well, first of all, I feel blessed to have had the opportunity to be named as superintendent of this district. If you've lived here, worked here, went to school here, played here, whatever you might do in this community over a long period of time, you may take some of the things that are already in this district or in this community for granted. And having been in Columbus, left for quite a few years, and now come back, I probably have the opportunity to offer a fresh perspective and can state unequivocally that this is a great place, a wonderful place, a very neat place for families to raise their kids and to go to school. And so it's been neat for me to get back into a system and to be able to participate in it and to lead it. And I feel very proud, again, and honored to be the superintendent of this district.
What would you say has been your most memorable moment thus far?
Well, there have been a lot of things that have happened. Again, a new situation. Almost every event that I attend, it's the first time I've went to that. So I'm about to complete that cycle here at the end of year one. But a memorable moment for me actually came outside of the school day and outside of our schools. It was on a Saturday. I participate in our Book Buddies program. And a lot of our staff members do, as well as volunteers throughout our community. And so my schedule's tight, but whenever I can on a Thursday, I'm at Fadria around 11 o'clock, and I read with one child and then another child, just helping them get better at reading. And I try not to be a superintendent at that point in time. I'm just a volunteer who's trying to help kids. And I was at Target with my wife shopping on a Saturday right before Christmas break. And my wife is shopping. I'm kind of standing in the aisle, and I hear this little girl's voice yell, "Jim!" And I'm not sure who's calling me Jim at this point in time. So I turn to my right, and a little girl that I'm volunteering with in this Book Buddies program comes running up to me with her little Santa hat on and gives me a hug. And her parents are walking behind her. So I did have to quickly explain to the parents who this strange man was in Target that their little girl was hugging. But the memorable piece of that was that I felt like I'd obviously made a connection, formed a relationship there with one of our students, and who had seen me as just a volunteer in the program and not necessarily as Dr. Roberts, the superintendent. And there may be some people saying, "I can't believe that person called you Jim instead of Dr. Roberts or something more formal." And that's actually one of the neatest parts for me of that moment, was that that's who I was to her. I might show up in a suit and tie every day, but I was just a volunteer helping out and trying to help her read better. And she's been a success story. Shortly after Christmas break, she was released from the program because she was doing so well. She didn't need my help or the Book Buddies' help anymore. But a really neat moment for me as a superintendent to have that opportunity to work with children, and then for them to recognize me out in the community on a Saturday before Christmas break.
Mm-hmm. And finally, what are some of the plans that you have for this summer?
Well, summertime is always a neat time, I think, for all of us. The summer is shorter now, as we all have, or at least many of our corporations have moved to the balanced calendar, so about 2 months. My contract is a 12-month contract, and so I don't have a lot of obvious moments off. So the one thing I'll be doing is take advantage of staff members, students kind of doing their thing and being able to hunker down, plan, and summarize what happened this year and get ready for the next one. A lot of that stuff happens in the summertime. But in terms of trying to have some fun as well, I'm a gigantic baseball fan, and so have plans to spend a few days in Chicago at Wrigley Field, and then also at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. So we'll be in those two cities following some baseball. And then also I'm a water fan, so we'll be at lakes around the state of Indiana, skiing, doing a little relaxing, doing some things there just to take a break. But no other major things in terms of getting too far away. We'll be doing those few things as well as in the office quite a bit this summer.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to just throw out, Graham, as we're getting ready to finish out here, that I want to thank all of you for your efforts with this program this year. It was just an idea we had coming in. So this was a new thing for our corporation to have BCSC in action. So working with you as students, I could also include that in memorable moments, because each one has been a lot of fun for me. And to thank the various adults in our corporation who have helped out, Mr. Baker, Mr. Welsh, Mrs. Winnicky. They have been awesome in their efforts to get this show done. Your schedules are challenging, mine is challenging, so sometimes just the semantics, the practicality of getting together and doing this show, it can be challenging. And then some of the road shows that we did by going to my office or CSA New Tech, we did a short segment, or Johnson Preschool, so we went on site a few different times. But I want to thank you and the rest of our students and our staff members for the show. You were awesome, and hopefully our community has appreciated us trying to give them some information on a regular basis about our school corporation.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's all from us here at BCSC in Action. Tune in again next year.
We hope you have enjoyed our last installment of BCSC in Action for this year. Don't forget to tune in next year to find out all of the new and wonderful things that are happening within the Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next year.